Today on Locked On Rockies, some young guys having hopes of breaking camp with the major league team, but are the Rockies relying too much on their young guys?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 11th day of February in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holton, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on that Locked On Podcast Network, like I was talking about. And of course, we are on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. We got all sorts of good comments, all sorts of Rockies fans tuning in and enjoying the show. Be part of the show. Let me know what's on your mind. All right. So on today's episode, we're going to talk again, Thomas Harding, continuing to give you the big storylines of what are these big spring training storylines to watch here. And it's a lot about young arms here. Talked about Kris Bryant yesterday. There's also an interesting note from this piece that I want to bring up that kind of ties together is, are the Rockies relying too much on the young guys, / is it the Rockies relying on them too much, or is it the young guys not performing up to snuff, up to standard, for the club? So we're going to dive into that and more, all on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we dive into everything today, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. And we get started by heading over to MLB.com. Thomas Harding writes, Bryant tops list of 3 hot topics as Rockies prepare for camp. And we talked about Kris Bryant yesterday a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more about this piece, or part of the piece here, in just a little bit. But I wanted to bring up something here. Can the starters stay healthy, and can new prospects push their way into the majors? So basically, Harding sets the scene here by explaining, German Marquez and Antonio Senzatella and Kyle Freeland, what they've meant, why they were signed, what they've done in the past, and the injury concerns with them. Of course, that's going to be something that we're going to have to worry about and deal with, I think, throughout the season as well. How healthy will Kyle Freeland be? How healthy will German Marquez be after all this time off and the rust accumulated there? How healthy will Antonio Senzatella be after suffering 2 major injuries there? And of course, Austin Gomber, what's his health looking like? I do think when you're talking about starters' health, especially in the case of Kyle Freeland, these 2 guys coming back is a huge deal, at least I think, for taking some of the pressure off of Kyle Freeland. Kyle Freeland had to really carry the load for the starters. Had to be the number one, had to be the guy that led things off, had to be the guy that the Rockies looked for to go deeper into games, battle through, giving up some runs and go and some games that didn't go very well. Kyle's had to shoulder that burden while Marquez and Senza have been injured. Now with them coming back, that should relieve at least some of the pressure here. Like I said, there's a lot of question marks about this rotation still. I know that I've talked about being confident in this rotation, best Rockies rotation in a couple of years, which I still do believe. But the warning signs about health are still going to be something in the back part of our mind. What does this version of German Marquez look like after? What does this version of Antonio Senzatella and Kyle Freeland look like? Austin Gomber as well. Austin Gomber had to shoulder some stuff and has dealt with injuries as well over the past couple of years, with the Rockies having to really rely on those guys to be the starters, with the rest of the rotation being Feltner or a hodgepodge of other starters down the line. So Of course, there's not much you can control and over plan for and focus on when it comes to the health of the starters. But I do think with this crew returning together, ideally they should be able to back each other up enough so that if they're if they're struggling, if they're dealing with stuff, it's not from added pressure of being kind of the starter, the legit only starter. Now the Rockies here sitting here with Marquez. And I don't know. I think Senza might still be up in the air for some folks, depending on how you look at what Senza has done in his career. Marquez and Freeland back on the same team helps Freeland immensely. I think for sure. I don't know how much it might benefit German Marquez on the back end, but when you're talking about for Kyle, I think it's a huge win for him to be getting German Marquez back in the lineup. I know they don't pitch on the same days. I know that the connection might be a little whatever, but I'm just saying there's who had more pressure on them as a starter during these last few seasons than Kyle Freeland. He literally had to be the starter and the anchor. He had to be the best guy for the Rockies while going through, again, the parts of his career where he's figuring it out. He's dealing with health. He's still throwing, what was it? I think he still started like 20 something games last year. Let me double check. Regardless, I think that this is the way that the Rockies are able to help keep their guys a little bit more healthy. Ideally, 21 games started there for Kyle Freeland. And even with those starts in 2024, interestingly enough, it was the least amount of innings pitched for Kyle in a few years. So you see where the injuries definitely impacted Kyle. 31 starts in 2022, 29 starts in 2023. So, Kyle over the last couple of seasons has missed in that range of 8 to 10 games. 8 to 10 starts there for the Rockies. And that's a massive difference. When you're thinking about where the Rockies are in their rotation, what the Rockies are dealing with here as a rotation, this is a guy that the Rockies certainly have to rely on. So a guy that the Rockies have to be able to count on here. And I think by adding in German and in Antonio Senzatella, ideally that should be something that helps them. At least I think it's kind of the really in reality, how much do these players, how much does just having them on the roster really impact health? Kind of looking in the weeds, maybe a little bit there, but I do believe with this rotation being at full strength, with Kyle having the guys that he know, his battery mates that he knows he's been successful with and has worked with, I think that will be a different story. But health is something that we will never ever be able to control. It could be a total freak thing. I mean, you never really know what might happen in a game or throughout a season. So interesting little note there. Let's see what else here. Let's dive into the idea of the young guys breaking camp with the Rockies here. And this is something I think that easily, I think right field and this part of the pitching staff might be the most interesting things to watch in spring training here. And this is what Thomas Harding has to say. Righty Ryan Feltner's strong second half indicated that he might be ready to reach his promise. Lefty Austin Gomber was able to finish the season healthy for the first time since he arrived from the Cardinals in the 2021 Arenado trade. So the Rockies entered 25 confident in 5 experienced starters. But the difference between the Rockies this year and in the recent past is the talent level of prospects. Righty Chase Dollander, the 2023 first-round draft pick in MLB Pipeline's number 25 overall prospect, will be given a chance to grab a job this spring or pitch his way to the majors sooner rather than later. Lefty Carson Palmquist, the Rockies' number 14th prospect after a strong AA and AAA season last year, appears close to a debut. And lefty Sean Sullivan, Rockies' number 10 prospect, is making quick progress. Righty Gabriel Hughes, number 22 Rockies prospect, could be a fast riser as well if he proves he is healthy after Tommy John in 2023. So this is a good problem to have, right? If you're the Rockies, where you got an abundance of arms looking ready to make a statement, make a case. And this opens up a whole lot of possibilities. And just a couple of them that could happen. Let's say season goes on, the first 3 starters that we talked, German, Senza, Marquez, all kind of rolling, maybe not dominating the league, but playing good ball, pitching well, and I'll let you define what pitching well is in this hypothetical. But say Austin Gomber's maybe not, maybe struggling a little bit. Ryan Feltner's still growing into it and seeing it. I don't think it's that out of the question if the Rockies, if Chase Dollander blows your socks off. If Chase Dollander, I don't think he breaks camp with the team. Personally, I don't think that the Rockies will have him start the season right away with the club there. I can see this being a move that's made a month or so down the line, get the beginning of the season going, see what the impacts of the health are, see how healthy this team starts the season and what type of changes they might need to make in that. And he comes up later. And when he comes up later, this is going to create, I think, two most likely scenarios. The first one being Austin Gomber shifts to the bullpen, adds a veteran arm into the bullpen. You got it's not the first time that Austin Gomber has been moved around like that, and this might be a way where Gomber can be more successful. Another possible, I wonder if, I don't know if necessarily Antonio Senzatello falls into that same bucket, perhaps, but I do think that this is if the Rockies are looking to say, hey, we couldn't necessarily find a bullpen piece that we really liked, but and we're looking to add a veteran arm, we could shift Gomber back into the bullpen there. And it is someone that he is going to be the one to watch. Could be the one to send. I wonder if Senza might be the one that sneaks in there. But here's what MLB Trade Rumors has to say as of this shift possibly to a veteran pitcher going to the bullpen. Earlier in this piece, it mentions, of course, the Rockies are reportedly still interested trying to add a veteran arm to the bullpen, but this is from Leo Morgenstern on MLB Trade Rumors, Rockies to consider young pitchers for starting rotation. I'm just going to this part down here. As for which of Colorado's veteran starting pitchers could wind up moving to the bullpen, Senzatella might be the most likely possibility. The oft-injured 30-year-old missed almost all of the last 2 seasons recovering from ACL reconstruction and Tommy John surgery. His last productive season was in 2021, and even then he failed to pitch enough to qualify for the ERA title. It would not be surprising to see him struggle in camp after so much time away, in which case it might be best for all involved to ease him back into an MLB role via the bullpen. Marquez is another name to keep an eye on during spring, considering he has also missed most of the last 2 seasons due to injury. He was durable and reliable for Colorado over the previous 6 years, so he's likely to have a much longer leash than his fellow Venezuelan right-hander. In other words, the Rockies are highly unlikely to move Marquez to the bullpen. However, if he needs to go back to the injured list, a spot in the rotation would open up. So that opens up the thing there too, right? I mean, maybe Senza's profile, maybe Senza's skills, maybe this version of Senza is better for the, innings 6 through 8. Maybe Senza's, maybe it's better the smaller sample size of Senza. You only get one chance to see him instead of building up that opportunity to make the good contact and not get the weak contact that Senza's trying to induce. That I do wonder, and this is something I'm legitimately curious about, what the mental side of it is like to go from being a starter into the bullpen. And especially for Senza, when you're thinking about how long the road to recovery has been to this spring training, specifically after dealing with 2 devastating injuries, you're just trying to get back on the field. You're just trying to get ready to go. But of course, you're trying to be the role and be the contributor that you believe. But that health, warning light is still going to be flashing for the Rockies, of course, throughout this whole season. But it is interesting. I do think if the Rockies don't add a veteran bullpen piece here, you are exploring an area where, okay, you could, if Dollander really is ready to go, if Palmquist is ready to go, if you are ending spring training saying, you know what, this is a year about figuring out, this is a young guy year, that we are really truly embracing our youth movement. And you know what? Why have him waste pitches at the minor league level? Let's get him up here. Let's get him battling cores. Let's get this thing rolling. Let's get this thing moving. You'll have a couple of options of what to do. especially if the Senza gets through spring and maybe he's still feeling a little bit. Maybe he embraces that bullpen role. Same for Austin Gomber. You're not going to be able. You can't have both of them go to the bullpen, Gomber and Senzatella, but you do to have a couple of options that might be interesting there. And so I mentioned a second possibility. And the second possibility, if these young arms come up later in the season, that means German Marquez is going to get traded. I'm going to talk about that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. If you are tuning in and watching the Nuggets, man, what a game for the Nuggets last night, huh? And you're like, oh, I'm going to go, Jokic is going off again. I'm going to get in on we'll take this little live game parlay. I'll take this, I'll take over on the points. Get him getting a triple-double. Well, you can see all the action for yourself on the super easy-to-use FanDuel app. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, you're in the right spot. For your second listen of the day, go check out our pal Sully over on Locked On MLB. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services as well. So don't miss out on that. Exciting times in the world of Colorado sports. Maybe not so much for us here on Locked On Rockies. I understand that. But hey, why not go check out what's going on as the Avs and the Nuggets are in the heart of the playoff race there, as things are rocking and rolling here throughout their seasons. And we got lots more to dive into today here about the Rockies. And I wanted to revisit, of course, what I was saying in there. The Rockies could open up a path with two opportunities here if their young starters are ready to go. How am I going to know if they're ready? I don't know. I don't necessarily know what the Rockies will need to see specifically in camp. I don't know what the Rockies' mindset actually is when it comes to what is the plan. I personally believe that this scenario, and maybe it's not Marquez the one who's traded, maybe it could be someone else, but if none of the young Rockies arms break camp with the starting rotation, and if the Rockies stay healthy and decide we are going to stick with our rotation of the guys that we have and we know, Gomber, Senza, Marquez, Freeland, and Feltner, we're going to rock with that. We're going to see what happens with that. And then the season goes the way it's anticipated, and the trade deadline rolls around. A starter gets moved. Because here's the deal. The Rockies have to make the decision about German Marquez at the trade deadline this year. You need to make the decision to commit to another contract extension for German Marquez and buy in and say, German, you are arguably maybe not yet, but you have a shot at being the best Rockies pitcher ever. Statistically, XYZ. So they're going to have to either decide we're sticking with him, we're doubling down, we believe in his health, we believe he's been so reliable, he's been so good for us. We are signing and extending German Marquez, and that deal gets done before the season ends. But on the flip side, German Marquez could be a trade piece at the trade deadline. And if you're the Rockies and you're 10 games out already, and I'm 10 games out of the wild card. I ain't talking about the division. 10 games out of the wild card. You're 10 games below 500, or whatever, XYZ. Put all the other things that you can anticipate and expect about the Rockies this year and where they're going to end up. is committing and sticking with Germán the right move when, if he's got a solid season, he's showing that he's healthy, he's showing that he's ready to go, you open up the path, you open up the door, Dollander gets in the rotation, everyone moves up one, and then you go with that for the second half of the season. And and Dollander has a whole half of the season of starts, gets probably at that point, probably getting at least 10 starts, there's a good chance good chance to get him 10 starts, maybe flirt with 100 innings pitched in those starts, depending on how he does and how deep he can go in ball games and how much the Rockies want him to pitch. Same with Palmquist. Put any of those names that we read, any of the names breaking camp, it's going to be much more likely for them to have an opportunity to be in the rotation if a spot is open. And the way that spot can open up is, I think the first one is most likely looking at is health. That's the biggest concern, as we were just talking about. The second one is trade, and then the third one will just be forcing their way in there because you just can't ignore it. You can't. It's like when Skeens was just cutting people up, or some of these elite level top tier prospects have been able to just pitch their way through the majors real quick and get themselves into the rotations sooner rather than later. You can see we have a special guest here on the live version. My dog's usually not roaming around this much, but we saw raccoons under our house today. So if you see the dog popping up, she's kind of doing a full-on inspection here as we're talking Rocks today. But anyway, so the it's an interesting spot, right? I mean, there's plenty of what ifs, and this is why spring is starting, builds a little bit of the excitement as well, because strong springs for all of these guys. It doesn't have to just be the young guys. It could be, wow, Senza's looking healthy. Senza, and again, it's going to be spring. It's going to be, all truncated. There's all going to be tons of asterisks to put on things. But, if Germán's just able to go up and he's looking good, he's feeling good, he's leaving his, his spring training starts, and he's mentioned, and he's not talking about being, working through injury and still coming back. That's going to be a great sign. Same with Senzatella. I just think the young guys are going to force the hand. Same with the probable outcome of the season here. Let's take a quick peek here. As we've done a few times, and we should go through the actual schedule a little bit more, and we will. But just to set the tone again, as we bring up here, the Rockies are not going to be able to be able to afford to start the season sitting on their hands. I mean, it is go right away when you're talking about level of talent, and especially because the way the season is going to start, it's a 6-game road trip. I mean, the Rockies could be 1-5, 0-6. I mean, with the way this team plays on the road, the narrative could be set before the Rockies even set foot in Coors Field for the first time. Especially because when you're looking at the road trip competition that the Rockies take just in the first month of the season, all of them are playoff teams. Maybe Tampa Bay is the one on the outside looking in when it comes to those. You're on the road in Tampa, Philly, San Diego, LA, and Kansas City. Those are just the road series that the Rockies have. I mean, in the month of April. So the clock is going to be running right away. So I do wonder how long do you wait? If a month into the season, if Dollander is just blowing people away in the minor league level, if Dollander continues to be one of the most exciting prospects the Rockies have, if not the most exciting prospect that the Rockies have, why wait? Right? And that goes for right field as well. If say Chris Bryant is swinging the bat well, but the defense is like, what if the Rockies sit there and say, all right, let's just have him bat. And let's really go. Let's bring up one of our young arms to anchor the rotation, and let's commit to a young guy in right field. Can they do that? Will they do that? And is that relying too much on the young guys? Let's talk about that coming up next in today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Paul Holden here from Locked On Rockies, thanking you again for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, and I want to know what's on your mind, folks. I want to hear what you're thinking about. Head on over to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, really appreciate it if you do. Best way to help the show grow is to subscribe for free on YouTube and fire off those Rockies hot takes and let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. So we were talking about when do the Rockies make the move? If the Rockies make the move to go with the young, to really embrace some of these other young prospects, both that, is most likely in the most focused on the rotation. But are the Rockies relying too much on their young guys? Is that something you can even really say in this part of this, where the Rockies are at? And part of me does think so. Like, we can't just sit here and hope that bringing up prospects immediately is going to work and is immediately going to change the game, and these guys are going to be immediately ready to go and slam dunk, boom, bam, boom, the Rockies are winning 70 games. Wipe our hands. Trade these guys, boom, we got the young guys, go with that, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think I think you enter a situation this year when the question doesn't become, do they rely too much on the players or the young guys? It should be, why not try it? Why not? If the season is lost, if the Rockies are behind the 8 ball, if the Rockies are as bad as projected, if the Rockies are in this low spot, if the Rockies are on pace to lose 100 games again, why not see what you got? Why not see what you got? Why not move again? Why not move on from one of you from Herman and continue to go this and see what you get and let someone go through there? Why not really just fully go young guys? Play the young guys, start the young guys. Chris Bryant moves to right field, or moves out of right field and just becomes the full-time DH. Boom, that's there. Boom, Nolan Jones gets some time, if Chris Bryant has a day off, Nolan Jones is going to DH, got someone else in left field to play a little bit there, figure out who can back up Brenton Doyle in center field, use these times to get these guys onto the field and see what they got with live at bats. But the problem though, with that though too, is you got to let the guys you choose, you got to let the guys you're given opportunities to have a little consistency, get a little flow to them. I mean, this is my biggest frustration, not only with the Rockies, but just baseball and baseball player development in general. It's just so unfair for players to only get called up, be on the Rockies for 10 days, and they get 5 at bats. I mean, that's all that time that's lost that they could have been in the lineup at minor league levels, actually getting at bats and swings in. But I just don't understand the point of having young guys on the roster sit there and do nothing and just try to absorb by osmosis the, what's going on the field. This has to be a year about prioritizing getting guys playing time. And that comes at the cost of other people's playing time and potentially their roster spot. I mean, if the Rockies are 15 games, where is Herman Marquez's mind at? If the trade deadline comes and passes, the Rockies are irrelevant, and he's facing he's facing a situation in which he can walk into free agency. Do we think Herman Marquez would come back to the Colorado Rockies given it's this current state? 3 straight 100-loss seasons, all the possible factors that could be going there. And I know it's only 2, but I'm just saying putting us into the Herman at the end of the season mindset. I mean, I'm sure the relationship between Herman and the Rockies is similar to that of John Gray and the Rockies, in which that if you asked Herman, yes, he would stay. He would stay. He's loyal to the team. He likes being with the Rockies. But on the flip side, the grass is greener in other places. Maybe not. Maybe Herman doesn't get to be a number 1. Maybe Herman doesn't, and maybe he doesn't etch his name into the Rockies record books as much as he could, but he could go win somewhere. He could go contribute somewhere. He could go be part of a team that can get more and the most out of him in the second half of his career, because Herman's got plenty of time left to pitch. Herman is a major league pitcher and will be for a good chunk of time longer. Will he just be with the Rockies? That's going to end that. The trade deadline and Germán's performances are going to be very, very interesting. So let me know what you think there. We didn't have time to get to your comments today. I'm sorry about that, folks. But do you think the Rockies are going to go too hard on the youth movement, or are you saying bring it on? Let's see what we got. Let me know in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comments section. Remember, for your second list of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with our guy Sully. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. I'm, of course, Paul Holden, host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, saying so long from Locked On Rockies.